cheers. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, no problem.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. It's great to be here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good. What about any of this stuff? You partake in any of these?
Yeah. Is it? Yeah.
Have you
Is this on TV? No.
There is video and audio. Do you partake in any of this stuff?
Not today, no.
No?
Because I gotta drive and this I can handle, but yeah.
This might be a little too much. Sounds good. It is legal now, yeah?
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I like it. Well, we'll put this away. If it goes a little long,
exactly.
We got this right here. So, get started. For everybody watching, you're Grant Munday. You are manager of
Development Approvals,
City of Welland. It's amazing. You've been there how long now?
6 years.
6 years. Before that, you were in my favorite place in the entire world.
Township of Wainfleet.
And we miss you here.
Yeah, I loved working here. It's great. And I got a chance to drive through it today on my way here because I live kind of along the border. And so on my way here, I can drive along the lake and then along Wilson Road, along the Wainfleet Bog. And then you can kind of drive through this area where you got all these farm fields. And it's like it's vast. It's so vast, Wainfleet. And there's so much different interesting places.
See, what's pretty cool, I've lived here my whole life. Love it here, but you worked here for...
I think it was 3 years.
So you know like a lot of the intricacies of Wainfleet that I don't even...
Yeah, like I've driven every road in the township.
Wow.
I've been, like I say, I've been to every corner of it. I've been to a lot of the farms. I've met a lot of the big farmers in the community. Most of the projects that I worked on were big farm related projects here. New egg farm, new... all kinds of new farm expansions happened in the 3 years I was here. They were big ones.
You were here for 3 years?
Yeah.
That's it. You had a pretty good impact while you were here.
Yeah. Yeah, for the things that we had. And we got a new zoning bylaw basically in place before I was gone, and that allowed for expanded farm uses, allowed for secondary units, which was, places are just allowing that now. Wainfleet allowed that.
What do you mean secondary?
Like you can have a second unit in your house, or you can have a second unit detached from your house, kind of this tiny house sort of thing.
Oh, yeah?
But you've got to get permits and that sort of thing.
How would that even work? I didn't... Look at this. So we're 4 seconds in, you're already teaching me something. I love it.
Yeah, so basically...
If you got a farm...
If you've got a house in Wainfleet and you want to add an apartment, you may be able to do that. The zoning allows it.
Really?
But you have to get approval for your septic system because now you're potentially adding more sewage to the septic.
Yeah.
You'll have to get building permits because there has to be proper fire separations and that. But zoning-wise, you probably could do it. And you can do the second detached as well.
Really?
I believe. But
what's
here? So then there, same thing. You got to get the septic approval. You got to get a building permit for the second.
Yeah.
Unit.
So as long as you meet like lot coverage and
exactly. Yeah. So some people might have to go with because of lot coverage, they might have to go within the house because they can't expand out.
Right.
So, but there's...
I didn't even know that.
I think there's been some uptake there on that, but I don't know. I don't really know the details of it, but it's definitely allowed. And it was because the province allowed it, really. And they sort of said you had to put it in place. When I was here, we kind of had to put it in place. We're doing a new zoning bylaw, so we...
Right.
Although, regardless of whether the province requires, still good idea because you've got with an aging population, it's also harder for young people today to get mortgages, as you probably find out all the time when you're bringing people around to look at houses and stuff. It can be a challenge probably to find a place that fits their budget, and will they be approved to get a mortgage for it. So there's those people are trying to save up money, so these second units may help. Families can add a second unit and rent it out for a reasonable price.
I had no idea.
So, yeah, and you got aging population again. You want to bring your parents to live with you.
So if I wanted to bring my mom here,
yeah,
I'd have a potential, as long as we meet requirements like lot coverage and those things, to put a detached unit.
I believe so in Wainfleet.
Yeah, that's unreal. I didn't even know this. And in Welland, with the new like you guys rezone the entire city or most of the city?
Yeah, well, there's a couple deferred areas, but it's probably makes up about 5% or less of the land, but basically 100% of the city's under this new zoning bylaw, which again allows for these second units.
Right.
You're allowed minimum, if you have a house, you're allowed one within your house or a detached one. And you have to get a building permit in either case. So there's lot coverage and setbacks, but we've increased the allowable height for accessory buildings so that...
Let's start with, when did this new zoning start?
October 17th, 2017.
2017.
Yeah.
So it's already been over a year, almost approaching 2. So wait, what is it? The accessory, you're allowed an accessory unit on all properties?
Basically residential. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're allowed in a single detached, semi-detached, townhouse. Same rules apply out in the rural area as well.
I think it's great, and is part of it the aging population for that, or
it's a combination of factors. You got the aging population, you got a huge need for affordable housing. So it's one way of trying to create more units, because right now the supply is like 1% vacancy for rental. So that's but not good for renters, because they're now having to there's now bidding wars potentially on units.
There is, for sure.
So if you're trying to solve like a housing problem, then your first thing you want to do is kind of look at a multi-pronged approach, because you're never going to be able to solve it with one solution. So one of the things you can easily do is say, you know what, people should be allowed to have second units. That's one way of creating more supply. And you still have permits and stuff, so you ensure that there's, safety there.
Right.
But that's one way that you allow people to create more units through the private sector.
I like that.
And that creates more units in general, which theoretically keeps the, price down. That's like basic supply and demand economics. But there's other programs as well. Like there's different things that sort of tie in with that affordable housing thing. Like you can get a grant in certain cases for a second unit, depending on through Niagara Regional Housing.
In Welland? Or
through Niagara Regional Housing, yeah. So anywhere in the region, Niagara Regional Housing has a program where they'll offer up to, I believe it's $25,000 forgivable grant.
Really?
If you create a second unit and rent it out at a certain price point, and only to people under a certain income, and I think it's something like $33,000. But it ties in what you could do. Seniors again would probably fit in with that income category. Most seniors would fit into that. Students, that kind of thing, like a single student or something, would fit into that category. So you just kind of, in order to be to get forgiven for this grant, you have to every year send proof to Niagara Regional Housing that I've got a tenant here that is below a certain income, and I'm only renting it to them for whatever the set price is, and they sort of set the price for each community based on market.
Really? So then, if they give you $25,000, probably if you do this for like 10 years or so,
15 years. So it's prorated over 15 years. So if you fulfill the program, you don't have to pay it back. If you decide, 10 years in, I'm going to sell, you got to pay back the remaining 5 years.
Gotcha.
Prorated. And then
if
you want to get out of the program, let's say after 5 or 6 years, say, this isn't working for me, I want to do it. I want to pick my own. I want to pick whoever I want in terms of a tenant, rent for whatever I want. Then you'd have to pay back the remaining years that were left in that sort of prorated.
Gotcha.
But
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Do you know if you get approved for it, if you spend the money and then they reimburse you, or do they?
Yeah, it's all basically you got to spend the money, I believe, and then
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So,
although I don't know about that one, it might be different than that. But usually our programs are you put the money out, and then you get pre-approved from us for whatever we have in terms of incentives, and then you do the work, and then you submit the receipts and request.
What incentives are going on in Welland?
Yeah, so Welland, we have 3...
You know a lot, say? Like, I love it. This is why I wanted to have you on. We haven't even touched the drink barely, and you already taught me some cool stuff.
Yeah, so we have... we got 3 programs at the City of Welland in terms of incentive programs. So we have the Gateway Community Improvement Plan.
Okay.
And that applies generally to employment lands, like industrial development. Hotels are also included in that. And basically that program has a tax increment grant component to it. So you can receive back an increase of your taxes that result from the construction of your project. Yes.
So what do you mean?
So like, let's say we take a vacant piece of industrial land and a company comes in and decides to open up a factory. Let's say it's Tesla.
Nice.
And I'm totally making that up. But let's say it's Tesla and they say, we want to open up a factory in Welland, and we've found a piece of land. If it's in our community improvement plan area, which is basically our whole urban area of the city, they can get a tax rebate back for the increase in taxes. So the taxes on this piece of property, let's say, are $1,000. It's vacant. Let's just hypothetically, we'll say it's $1,000 for the city, and $1,000 for the region, and $500 to the province.
Right.
They decide they're going to build this 100,000 square foot factory, and that's going to result in now taxes of, let's say, $10,000. The numbers would be bigger than that, but we're just going to. So now we have a $9,000 increase in taxes. This program, you can get back a percentage of that increase based on how many jobs you bring in.
Really?
And based on your economic investment. So what's the value of, or what are you spending to build this building? And that there's a formula that tells you this is the percentage of rebate that you're entitled to. There is a cap on the program, so you can't get back more than $1 million per year.
Okay, well,
from the city, and $1 million. But when you to get to that level, you'd have to build you'd be in the hundreds of thousands of square feet.
So hard for somebody to get that high.
To get to that point. Most of the projects are like 13,000 square feet, 20,000, and they're getting kind of a 65% rebate.
Oh, nice.
But we've attracted quite a few companies through this program. So we've got that one, and then we've got the Downtown Community Improvement Plan.
Even before you go there. This is one thing that really excites me about what you've got going on with your life, because City of Welland, I don't know, going back when all the plants started closing, I don't know if that was 70s, I don't even know, 80s, 90s, whatever. Welland was getting beat up pretty hard for losing employment and all those things. And now, with all the things you guys got going on, like, for me, it feels like a awesome rejuvenizing. And it's great to see it, and I know that you're like on the front lines of this.
Yeah, right.
It's great because Welland got beat up hard, right? Like I don't know numbers or stats or anything.
Yeah, right.
I just know what I see. So hearing these things, I love it.
Yeah, it's something like 10,000 jobs or something, I think, at the time when it was a huge loss, like late 80s, early 90s of jobs.
It went from 10,000?
That's how many. I think that's how many. It was lost. Yeah,
really?
Yeah. It was something along those lines. Yeah, because you had those. Remember, you got Atlas Steel, and you had
John Deere,
Union Carbide. Yeah, you had the Energex. It was Page Hershey then. Over on Ontario Road.
Yeah.
And so all those places.
Lots of jobs gone.
Tons. Yeah. So, but I mean, the politicians have been helpful in that regard because they're the ones that approve these programs, right? As the staff, we only make the recommendations. So, right. Yes, we've got to be on the forefront of that. But remember, the politicians are the ones that approved it, and that is huge. So we have to thank our politicians for making great decisions in that regard. Obviously, they understood the magnitude of the situation in terms of we got to figure a way to attract new jobs. Because really, a lot can be solved from getting a job. I mean, really, if you think about it, if you can get a job, that's a good start.
It improves a lot.
It improves everything. Yeah. So.
I love it. Okay, so you were saying the second incentive.
So we got the Downtown Health and Wellness Cluster CIP, and that basically
Downtown what? Sorry?
Downtown Health and Wellness Cluster.
Health and Wellness.
So it includes it's a long thing. So basically, it goes from the tracks where Atlas Steels is, heading west along Division and East Main Street, where City Hall is included in it. The old fire hall, the central fire hall, that area's in it.
Where's the fire hall?
The fire hall's on Division and
Helms.
Yeah. So Division Street's in it, both sides is in the CIP area. West Main Street all the way to Prince Charles Drive, both sides is in it. Mm-hmm. It goes up to the river along Niagara, so both sides of Niagara.
Blue Star?
It goes down all the way King Street, all the way up to the recreational canal and over to the would be the east side of King Street down to Lincoln.
Right.
And then from there, it goes along Lincoln over to the west side of Plymouth It doesn't include the east side, though. It includes the west side of Plymouth, all the way down to Ontario. So the hospital's in there.
Right.
And so we have that. And there's a number of programs in that one. I'm going to go through all the details of it because I didn't know I was going to be asked to give this kind of detail.
Well, you don't.
I should have brought a pamphlet.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Just
so, but there's, again, we have the tax increment program that I was talking about, very similar to the Gateway program, where you can get a rebate back of the increase in taxes. So if you take a built property and redevelop it, you can capture back a portion of the increase of taxes over a 10-year period. And a number of properties have taken advantage of that program. There's also facade improvements, so you can receive rebates back for improving the facade of buildings. Like the signage, same area, the area we're talking about. Area. Yeah, and we've had a number of people participate that.
Nice.
There's the Miniman Gaming that's going in. We can talk. We'll talk about some of the little projects that are going on.
Yeah, I love it.
So there's the building improvement grant, and we provide rebates back up to, it's 50% of the cost. So you can get up to $12,500 back, and it could be things, anything from a roof repair to an upgrading a fire system within the CIP area again.
In there.
Yeah.
Really trying to improve that area.
Absolutely, yeah. Because
that's awesome.
Again, there's a so you can get money towards, there's a residential grant improvement, so you can get money towards fixing up apartments or adding new apartments.
Really?
And the idea there is to try to fix up the units that are there. I don't know how many places, if you've ever been through places in there, but a lot of places need improvement. So there's incentives available to landlords or property owners to improve those units. Or you can add new units and you can get up to, I believe it's $15,000 per unit. Again, 50% of the cost towards either upgrading them or adding new ones.
That's amazing.
And then there's planning and building fees grant where you can get back up to, I believe, $5,000 of your planning and building fees. And there's development charge exemptions available, where and development charges is a fee you pay if you're building a new building for the number of units or per square foot. So in that area, you can get up to 100% reduction in the development charge. So you don't have to put that money out up front and wait to get it back. We'll just say, because your project's in the area, at minimum you get 75% reduction. So,
wow.
So then,
what I'm hearing is Welland's really encouraging improvements.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like this is, I don't hear this all other places. I don't know if it's happening in other cities or not, but
other places have the programs. I mean, I can't follow every what every place is doing. I mean, you can see improvements that have been made. I mean, if you go to St. Catharines in the downtown, Niagara Falls downtown was a CIP improvement. I mean, the business. I don't know what if their buildings are vacant, but they definitely looks nice down by City Hall there. They fixed up a lot of buildings, but there different places have programs. Some are better than others, in terms of what you can get back. I mean, we have the programs we have. We did our own consultation with our consultants, and the programs we have are reflective of what was the public and the stakeholders wanted. And we had like a multi-stakeholder group that was kind of the steering committee, like citizens, to kind of guide that downtown health and wellness cluster improvement plan and come up with the right sort of mix of programs to try to attract new development in general. And we've been successful of attracting. We have this new, I don't know if you've seen anything about this, but this Mini-Man Gaming. Mini Wargaming, yes. Yeah. Yes. So, I looked at a couple videos of it, and it's pretty cool. It's something different. I never, it's one of these things where you've worked in government for so long, and you think you've seen it all. And then somebody comes up to you and says they want to do this, and but again, that program helped attract this development to come downtown. I'm on King Street, and it's looking really good. That's what I've seen on Facebook and pictures and driving by there.
I haven't gone there.
They've gone through a number of the programs under the downtown. So that's awesome. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not really into that kind of thing, so I don't know really. But it'd be interesting to maybe see a tour of it. Take a look. Yeah. Yeah, and there's rooms upstairs that you can. It's almost like a. You can stay there and participate in the gaming. Yeah, as part of the gaming rooms, you can rent a room upstairs so you can stay overnight or a couple days, because people are going to travel from around the world to play here.
So I'll just say a little bit what I know about mini wargaming. Not that I know a whole lot, because I've never, but they make I'm pretty sure they make it this board game that is bigger than this desk here, and they play a game. It's dice, and they got characters and stuff, and like they were in Old City Hall in Welland, right?
Yeah.
411
Yes.
Main.
That's right.
Yeah, they were the biggest tenant there. That's a client of mine, and they were staying there. I think they had over a third of the building or more. And yeah, then at times I've talked to them. They have their YouTube channel gets, I've seen tens of thousands, I think hundreds of thousands of views on different things they put out. From what the landlord told me, which I'm not certain about, but what he told me was whatever business they have, they're the biggest in the world, and they're right in Welland, which is pretty cool because they're making this. And people, I've talked to people before, they're like from North Carolina up there visiting to game or whatever. It's pretty cool. I don't play any of that stuff, but I know I'd love to. I don't know if I've ever talked to the owner before, but I've definitely talked to some of the employees, and they got some cool stuff. It's
and actually you have it was Tucker Construction doing the construction on it. They're call them, but you might know them. I think they built a number of houses in Wainfleet.
Tucker. They're all
so they did a lot of the work, and then they let them use their studio, like their shop, to do some of the detailed kind of
designing
things for the rooms, like to make it look like whatever theme it's going to be. So it takes like detailed work, I guess. So they lent them space to kind of make these, have their artists come in and
that's so cool.
Do this the detail. So it is cool. You know, you never think you'd get a project like that. And it's not a huge thing. I mean, it's $1 million. It's a huge investment in general, but it's not. You know, it's nice. It's repurposing a building, but it's not a monster building. Or it's good though. It's part of what we wanted to do. Like it's just like we can't tell people to locate here, but we can offer the programs and attract them here. We can't force it. We can just create the environment to make it a place to invest. And then it's up to the investors to decide. And we try to do with the economic development and that, and try to attract people. But ultimately, the programs and that are what they look at and see. You know, they want investment.
Right. So, Welland's got to be doing pretty well of getting, like, with all these programs and getting things going. Like, I don't know if you could put a scale, like when I rate burgers, like 0 through 10, where you guys are with your goals. Can you ever?
I mean, it's really hard to number it, because you'd argue over what each thing was worth, I guess.
Right. But
it's like a matrix or something. Yeah,
progress is getting made.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if you look at number of new units, it depends what you consider factors of success, I guess.
Right.
You know what I mean? And council has the strategic priorities, and one of them is to redevelop the downtown, redevelop the canal, the recreational canal, and bring private sector investment. So from those goals, we are making the downtowns getting better. It's definitely gotten better from when I started.
Nice. And
then to what it is now. You go, and then you see now there's other projects. There's a 50-unit affordable housing project going up on King Street by the hospital, just south of the Hope Center. Yeah, on King Street, east side, just north of the ambulance.
What's the road the hospital's on?
The hospital's in behind there. It's on King Street, but it's set back.
What's that side street that is?
Oh, I can't think of the name of it.
It's right across from the arena. Is it north of that? Or
it's basically west of the hospital. Gotcha. It's south of that street you're talking about. Yeah. Which will kind of go tee into the arena.
Gotcha.
It's south of there.
So 50 unit.
50 unit apartment building, and that went through our incentive programs, a downtown health and wellness program, and also went through a brownfield incentive program, which is
what's that?
So that's another one we have. So then the brownfield community improvement plan relates to lands that are potentially contaminated from previous industrial or institutional activities. And so we have a lot of those those kind of brownfields, they call them. We have a lot of those in Mont. So with the retraction of industry and that sort of thing,
all the old factories.
You're left with all the old factories. Some of those are still active employment lands, but ones that aren't anymore, that were in the past, they've been sat sort of vacant because they're contaminated, and we'd like to see those redevelop into mixed use and residential, medium and higher density communities to try to attract more people within our downtown and into the city. So then the brownfield program has like incentive programs again, and one of them is like if you do a phase 1 environmental assessment, which would be the first thing, it's sort of a historical thing, and that says, okay, you got to do a phase 2 environmental assessment, which means you're going to have to do soil testing and groundwater testing.
Right.
Our program will offer a rebate back to do the phase 2. So once you get the phase 1, you come in and apply for our phase 2 ESA rebate program, and you can get back half the cost, up to a certain amount, back for that study.
Right. And phase 3 is like
that's when you get into
that's on.
Well, then that's the next part. So then if the phase 2 comes back and says, yeah, there's contamination and it needs to be cleaned up, if you want to allow for residential or it could even be commercial. I mean, commercial might not be allowed. It could be contaminated beyond what's allowed there.
Right.
So then from that point, you can apply to this tax increment grant program where you can get a rebate back for the eligible costs of the cleaning up the site and building the whatever it is that you're planning to build. So again, you can get this tax rebate back for a 10-year period, up to 100% of your tax increase back. The thinking there is that we need to find some way to clean these properties up so that we can bring them into a more...
There's lots of them.
Yeah, there's lots of them, and we need to bring it back to a usable state where we're collecting, tax. There's a taxes being collected ultimately on it. But in order to affect that to happen, you kind of have to put the message out there that you really want to clean these properties up, because you also want to clean them up because you don't want the contamination to leak elsewhere or leach into the water system or things like that.
You fix a problem and then
you trying to partner with the private sector to try to get these properties, get them cleaned up so that they're safe for what they want to do, and also create a more livable city, and then also create more density downtown, because most of the brownfields are actually kind of inner downtown area, kind of surrounding it, and along the old canal. There's a lot of brownfields along the old recreational canal, because that was all industrial at one time, and then they built the new canal, and that sort of those sort of disappeared over time. But so we've got a number of projects that went through that. We have the 5-story, 130-bed seniors housing that's being built attached to the wellness complex on Lincoln Street.
Oh, really?
So that's currently under construction. Again, that's one that went through our downtown community improvement plan and our brownfield program.
You're a little older.
So, so we have that one. And
nice.
That's their foundations being put in right there. And again, there you have a public-private partnership.
That's awesome.
They built the city. They're building the city a new parking lot. There's one there, but it's not completed yet. But they bought our old parking lot, and they built us a new parking lot beside the wellness complex, and it's not complete yet. But
that's a nice location right there, too.
Absolutely,
That's right on the water.
And it's connected to the wellness complex by like a structure.
That's amazing.
And so the seniors will be able to go from their building and go right into the wellness complex.
That's
and there's
awesome. That's great.
All these,
and
there's all these, and of course it'll bring up membership, because you'll have and maybe you'll get, maybe not. I mean, there'll be some that might already go to the wellness complex and they're planning to move into this new place once it's open.
Well, nicer.
Yeah, sure. So that
is awesome.
So that's another one that's
is that under construction now?
Yes, the foundation's going in, and
wow.
Yeah, there's plans on, you can see in the news and that.
That's win-win all over.
Oh, absolutely, and it's a company from Toronto that's doing it,
not the same ones working on Dennistown?
It's PlazaCom. It's a division of Plaza Core.
Gotcha.
And they're high-rise developers and developers in GTA area, and they've expanded out, obviously, because they've through the economic development department's going out and reaching out across the province and the world to try to get the city's name out there and telling people, that look, we have all these programs. We're actually a good place to invest. We got quick approval times.
It's amazing.
So
so just something about that too. I don't think Wainfleet, do we have an economic development?
Well, that would really have fallen with the planning. So, like, when I would have been working here, I would have been doing more of the economic development, because I would have been meeting with
Right.
And but most of the economic development would be generally like driven by the agricultural sector. I mean, that's really where Wainfleet's strength is in agriculture, like industry, heavy industry and stuff. They don't have water and sewer, so you're not really.
Why do I always hear that being a challenge for everything?
Yeah, water and sewer is huge. I mean, if you don't have water and sewer, you have to truck water in, and if you don't have sewer, you get into sort of retention ponds and this kind of thing.
But with water, like myself, I know I'm just a single house.
Yeah.
But I have a cistern that I collect rainwater.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you have a bigger.
Well, but you're talking huge amounts of water that you'd be using for processing and stuff like that.
Might be too difficult.
It would be not sustainable for the.
And a septic, like.
You'd be more into dry industries here. Could be in Wainfleet, more like fabrication, like welding and stuff like that could possibly work because it's not a lot of need for water and sewer. But it is really one of the big things that companies are looking for. I mean, to have water and sewer is huge. But really, Wainfleet's, in my view, is that it's the agricultural sectors where the investment can happen, because you can have sort of value-added agriculture now. So where you're sort of providing a finished product, you're making sort of something and you're taking it to a certain point and maybe bringing it to a new level. So
like processing.
Yeah, and maybe you're sending it out as a finished product. It could be pancake mix or you know what I mean. It's like Though that's where I think Wainfleet's big area would be to try to you would really want to attract industries that
try and make some tofu
tie into agriculture.
Soybeans or something.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Or if you're an egg manufacturer, maybe you have a breakfast place right there. I don't know. I mean, it's just, you know what I mean. But that's another thing that brings in income, and you're adding some value to the product. Yeah, most of what you're doing is going out to be distributed to grocery stores and stuff, but maybe a component of it you're doing something with it on site.
Well, we know one of the big things upcoming now that's a little bit different is the cannabis, right? But this has got mixed feelings still.
Yeah, right. Well, it's...
But there's lots of potential with that, especially with all the...
Yeah, and then there's products and stuff that can be made from it. I mean, aside from the drug part and that, there's a huge amount of products, actually, that can be made from the plant itself, the clothing, and there's food, textiles. It's huge. Fuel, it can be used as a biofuel.
I've never heard
and
that
it's so
before.
fast growing that, it's easy to grow. And because you can feed it into these biodigesters, and they basically just produce gas from digesting the material of the plant.
Right.
But you're producing these huge plants, and you just kind of process. You put it into these big vats, and it turns it into methane gas.
Really?
And then yeah. There's one it's out in Durham, I think, Durham region, and the guy it's on a farm property. But they also bring in like stale donuts and stuff from Tim Hortons, and they put them in this biodigester, and it turns it into methane gas, which they then convert to electricity with generators. So they use this methane gas to it's crazy.
Donuts to energy.
Yes,
that's amazing.
Yeah, so all these products get sent to, like, he's got his own product that he's putting in there, manure and stuff into this biodigester, but then he's getting stuff from the outside as well to feed it.
Really?
And otherwise it just go into a dump or landfill.
Waste it. You can make energy from these things.
So but I think that's where Wainfleet's are. And tourism, I think, is a big thing, like the smaller scale thing, maybe not huge scale, but more kind of the
Long Beach
area. I think more can be done with the waterfront. I think there's a lot more opportunities there to try to, not just for bringing people in from the outside, but for people in the township itself. I think there's a lot of these road allowances that go to the end of the lake,
right?
And they go and they got a beach on it and stuff, and they need to do a little bit more, I think, in terms of maybe trying to put some park benches and stuff, and I did some of that over by Quarry Road there, and make sure they put some park bench, Johnny on the spot. But there's all these other ones along the way. Everywhere there's a road, basically, almost it ends at the lake, right at the water, and it's public property.
Right.
And so that could be an area, not really for economic development. It could be one that, just for residents.
Attracting.
Just for a little spot, maybe drop a canoe or something. Or I don't know. But I think Wainfleet's real area for economic development is the farming community. Those are the guys that are the people that are putting the money into the economy in Wainfleet.
Yeah.
I mean those the type of you just don't see a lot of the projects they're doing because they often aren't flashing that they're putting up like a huge corn drying facility over on was that Meisner Road,
right?
But that's huge. You go look at that and that's
it is ginormous.
Yeah, that's huge. And then there's that Chaudry Farms, the egg factory, and then down the road here on Forks Road, the Wienhofs, I believe they put a big addition on for this. Broilers. I did get a chance to go on a tour of that when it opened. That was when I was here, but
what's that for?
It's like something to do with producing the chicken you would eat. I don't know. So it's like a breeding thing, or I don't know. I couldn't understand exactly what. So I went on the tour. He explained it to me a couple times a day. I couldn't understand. That was the other thing. I was really surprised of how technologically advanced farming had become. You know what I mean? Eh? Yeah, like you go to the Chaudry Farms and it's totally computerized.
Right.
Like their egg
That's
factory.
Where they do the egg. They have like
it's
lot
all
of
computerized. You can control it from their cell phone. Like your washer and dryer. They can control their whole factory from
That's hilarious. Yeah.
So that's cool. I mean, but that's where I think Wainfleet's everybody wants to get heavy industry, but you kind of have to come to terms with
what we've got.
You got to look at what your assets are. That's what you got to do. You got to look around and say, what are our assets? Well, for Wainfleet, one of your big assets is farming. It's huge.
So how could, like what Welland's doing with the brownfields and everything, how could Wainfleet do that with the farmers? How do they try?
Yeah, like you can create a community improvement plan. The township could, and they could put incentives in it, but you'd have to budget for it and that sort of thing.
Yeah, because it's a little bit tougher, right? Because
it's because then where do you put it, and where do you put you'd really have to, it would be maybe a brownfield one may be good because, you could kind of say, but because they're probably definitely there's some in Wainfleet for sure.
We
won't label them off because then we'll. Because we don't. But there definitely are property. Well, even a gas station. That was a place that was a gas station before is essentially a brownfield. So there's a lot of them. There's one on Highway 3 over in Winger there. There's one down in downtown Wainfleet.
Yeah.
There's one there, and there's ones that are in operation, but there's ones that existed in the past.
Yeah.
Old contractor yards and stuff that they be brownfields, but. Really depends on what the sort of strategic priorities of the council is. Like, what do they want to do?
Right.
In terms of the township. Like, if they want to promote a certain type of development, they got to look at what their assets are and then what are they going to offer, any programs, or what are they,
Residential development's not easy in Wainfleet.
No, because basically you don't have water and sewer, so there's the limiting factor, and then you're an agricultural area. You don't really want residential development because it becomes a conflict on farming, and what happens is people come in that aren't from farming or know anything about it, and they buy these houses out, these estate lots out in the country, kind of like what you got.
Right.
There's not too much farming around here, like right close by, but people have smaller things like horses and stuff, so then
the people not used to it.
Yeah, the people not used to it come in and they buy these places. They start complaining about the farmer using different types of chemical or fertilizers and herbicides and that kind of thing, and the dust and they start complaining about the farmer and the more you get housing encroaching onto farming, the less viable the farming becomes. It just becomes a pressure on farming, and it becomes a limiting factor too for livestock. So if you want to expand your livestock barn and then you've got houses being built near you, then you got this minimum distance farm, and you got to now set your thing back a certain distance from those houses now, but they have it in reverse too. So if you want to build a house near a certain within 300 meters of a existing livestock barn, then you would have to either get like a planning approval, and then the farmer could object, and they would win actually if in many cases if they did not want that house within that sort of radius. They actually the planning policies are heavily in favor of agriculture.
Nice. I haven't studied the agricultural impacts in a while, but from something I remembered in schooling and stuff is that the agricultural land in Canada, let's say, it's like we're not producing enough food from the lands we have. Is that something like protecting?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's part of it. You want to have, you want to be able to have enough
Sustainable
supply
us, yeah.
to feed the population. Like there's those stickers or things that say farmers feed cities.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to protect farmland for the future.
Yeah.
Like the population's getting bigger, but the farmland isn't getting bigger now. Maybe the production level isn't necessarily getting bigger. Like they're not getting it. They got to a certain point where they sort of plateaued. I think in terms of, but there's new technologies coming out with like indoor planting, growing, and stuff like that for food. And but it's a huge factor. You have to have a supply of food and protecting farmland, and that's why you wouldn't see much residential development in Wainfleet, because
tons of
limited in terms of severing lots, very limited there, and so that's why the second unit thing is nice, because people still can
on their
you
property.
still can that you can in your property.
That makes a lot of sense.
It allows for some housing development, and you see ones get redeveloped where somebody buys an old house and tears it down.
I don't think I've seen off the top of my head somebody utilize that in Wainfleet where they put on
I believe there is a few. I think so. I couldn't name them off, but I did speak with the building official here, and he did say there was a number of properties that had participated in that for in varying reasons, like aging parents, or some cases one of the kids will buy the property from the parents, and then the parents will build themselves a house on the property. They'll get the new one, and they'll either carry the mortgage for them. I don't know what
that's amazing.
But it allows for different things, like different financial arrangements that.
See, like I'm thinking just myself. I grew up on a family farm. My mom's there by herself now. Huge farm. If it ever becomes too much for her, I'd love to be able to put on a unit here for her that she can have her own.
Yeah, for sure.
And we can help each other. That's.
Yeah, you just got to figure out how you're going to tie into your septic and that.
Can you make a septic bigger? Can you add more?
Yeah, you can add more, and it could be that there's enough capacity in your septic.
Yeah,
it could be designed. You might have extra capacity there.
Yeah.
But it could be added to. Yeah, there could be improvements made to it. But you get a permit for that, and then
wouldn't want
you have to dig up all your. Don't dig up everything you're putting out now
that we're working on right now. But still, like that's an amazing concept. I love that.
No, it allows for these things and now you don't have to the way it would have been before. Like if you wanted to legally have this second thing, you'd have to go apply for planning approval, and then you'd have to go vouch as to why you needed this. Right? You'd have to say, well, it's for my mom, and then they might. Oh yeah, they want you to sign something saying in the old days, sign something, or they make you go through a process where you can have it for a certain period of time only, and then, but that's all. Now it's allowed. You don't have to sign these agreements. You have to pay the applicable development charges, get the permits, but the zoning allows it, and you don't have to go to like a public meeting and say,
"Interesting,
I should be allowed this." It's been decided by the province that this is allowed across Ontario. And this was before the current government, like the Conservatives, that was under the Liberals. But the Conservatives have even taken it a step further, and they're saying that for the parking, you don't have to have like a dedicated parking space for that new unit. It can be tandem. So like if you have a 1-car wide driveway and it fits two cars in it, that's enough parking. Because what was happening was some municipalities across Ontario were saying, yeah, we allow it, but you've got to provide a dedicated parking space, which becomes more easy in the country in most cases. But when you get to areas that are a little bit tighter, like in cities, that's not possible in many cases. You have to allow for the tandem. So the province ended up, because municipalities were using that as a way of allowing it but not allowing it, they now said, no, you can do tandem parking. So
what's tandem?
Like you can park back to back. So the person you'd have to move, I guess, if the one person wanted to give out. But the idea, what was happening was that situation was being used as a way of not allowing them. So it was a secret way of not allowing second units. We allow them, but only if you can meet this and this and this and this and this, and so the Conservatives have gotten into that. But the Liberals before that were the ones that made it mandatory for second units. But then there was places that were saying, okay, yeah, we allow it, but then we've put these additional restrictions on. Now
so is this an Ontario thing?
Yeah, Ontario, yeah. But you'll see a lot of places around in North America now are looking at allowing that or do allow that in some cases. But we're we're in the ahead of the game in many cases, like for Ontario, even
progressive
in terms of allowing that. Even though it was allowed it was mandated in the legislation, a lot of places hadn't adopted it yet. I mean, we took some time in Wainfleet to adopt it fully. Yeah. But
that's awesome.
It takes time to do these zoning amendments. We're doing a new zoning bylaw for the city. You know, it takes some time to create it. So, but yeah, so we got the 3 programs down.
Yeah. Something you want to?
Nah, let's go with the water here.
Water for now, because we got other stuff. I got some nice screech from Newfoundland.
No, I'm not into that.
We got some gins. We got that Portuguese drink. We'll have to try just a little touch of that one. It's just a light,
like my grandma or something.
It's like a light liqueur.
You got ice cream too?
I'm sure there's some in the freezer. Actually, I've never tried that with ice cream. It'd probably be amazing. Something when we're talking about affordable housing and all these things. One of the things that I'm really looking forward to, that I don't know how far away until it's more common, but is these tiny homes. And this is something that's getting talked about more. It kind of goes in line with this. And
so I did go to a session at the that was held at the region by some nonprofit group, and there was a number of people interested in tiny housing. I was interested as a city planner.
Yeah.
Not only just because of Wellman, but I was interested in general in the idea, because I've seen the show on TV, and it's cool and stuff. So I wanted to see what is it that people think of when they're thinking of a tiny house. And that's one of the areas, like, we allow for tiny houses in Welland. It's just...
You do?
Yeah, so if you want to buy a lot, for example, a vacant lot, and build a small house on it, there's nothing, as long as it meets the building code, and I believe the size is like just over 100 square feet, like the minimum size if you want to get into a... Right. It's regulated in the building code. That's allowed. You just got to pay the development charges the same as you would for any house, right? Whether it's a 200 square foot or it's a 2,000 square foot house, you got to pay this development charge. It goes, there's the city one, the regional one, there's the school board one, and that money goes towards the capital improvements that are needed to accommodate that growth.
That would drastically increase the cost of, because a tiny home...
Yeah, well, and that's some of the other things that people aren't thinking about when they think about the tiny house. So they see this advertisement on Facebook or something, says you can make you a house for $20,000, a tiny house. Okay, that's fine, but then that's not the foundation, right? You don't have the foundation. Maybe that's a slab on grade or something, but still, what are you looking at? It depends on the size of it, but let's say 5,000 minimum. I don't even know anybody who's going to go out and pour a cement pad for...
Yeah, less than that.
Yeah, so let's say that's it. You got to bring the water and sewer to the property. You got to buy the lot. So you got to buy the lot. What's the lot go for? So you got that. And then you've got connections like hydro and gas, and usually they do their connections for free.
Yeah.
But you still got to get the water and sewer to the from the if it's on the property line. If not, you got to pay a fee to bring it from the street to the property line, and then from the property line to the house. So there's all those additional costs. Plus,
all of a sudden, it's
the foundation's fine. Yeah, no,
more.
exactly. Yeah, there's all these. But you can build a tiny house. You totally can build it. You just have to pay the cost, the same cost that everyone else would pay.
Is there
now you could also the tiny house, the detached. We were talking about the second unit. You could do the tiny house that way.
That'd be a more
so one of the things we're looking at there, is we're going to exempt the development charge on the detached ones as well.
Really?
So you wouldn't have to pay the development charge.
Okay.
For Welland, the regions you'd still have to pay, and that's around $10,000. But ours would be.
Hold on. Let me grasp this concept. So, a development charge is when the first development, let's say a house gets put on a property.
Yeah.
So now, if you do an addition on a house, does the region charge development charges?
No, not an addition.
But if it's a detached unit, the Welland's saying, cool, no fees for that, but the region wants development charges.
Well, that's what their bylaw currently states. But then the province, but the thing is, the province is coming in, and I believe they're mandating you can't charge anyways. So when they update their bylaw,
because the development charge has been paid already.
Yeah. So for the one house, but then the theory is if you're adding another unit, you're adding more people.
Yeah.
And then you're adding more demand for need
Services.
for capital. Yeah, it's a very small percentage, right? But each new person comes with it a demand for a certain set of services.
Yeah.
and so those fees are used to collect that. But
Gotcha.
in order to try to again promote more affordable housing, we're gonna exempt it in our new bylaw, development charge bylaw. We're proposing to, but the province is already saying that it's in the new legislation that it's mandated. So
Right.
So we won't be charging the fee. I assume the region will follow suit at some point to eliminate it. So if you're talking about a tiny house village,
is that
then
something?
Well, it depends what it is. Like if you're talking like a subdivision, like a normal subdivision, then it's a possibility. But we have municipal standards that have to be met. So, and who's going to be the developer of it? That's the other thing. Who's going to be the developer of this tiny house village, right? Because somebody's got to be the developer and put all the roads and sewer.
But it's possible.
It is possible. The theory is possible. The other thing is because the lot sizes, like what's the lot size on something like that? A tiny house. It depends. And also, what is a tiny house? Like how big is it? Is it anything less than 1,000 square feet, or is it?
See, when I think of myself, tiny home, I think it's a great concept.
Yeah, right.
Because, of course, affordability. This is a problem. I didn't even realize that as more, even being in real estate, like I know prices have went up a lot, but I haven't realized, like I had April Jeffs here one time and she was talking about it a little bit and how big of a problem it is. And when I think of tiny homes, I think personally, I think it'd be a great thing. But like you're talking about, it's not feasible to put one on a lot that's undeveloped. Like, even if you do it for, let's say 120,000, like, and now you have a 300 square foot house. But if you can scale it, and something like a trailer park, like Southlands or something, there's trailer parks out there. It's the same kind of concept as a trailer park, right? Yeah. Aren't those essentially? They're a little bit bigger because I think they get like 800 square feet or something. Like a tiny home to me is under 500. Then when I think
of a tiny home, you still have the cost of to put a trailer park in. You still have the huge cost of the roads, and what do you have for water and sewer and that, and then how are you paying for that? Like with a traditional subdivision, developer comes in, buys a piece of land, and they put all the water and sewer in. They extend the water and sewer into the roads. They do all the grading. They do the stormwater management. They set it all up. They create the lots, and then they sell the lots off, and they hope that by the time they're done selling all the lots, they'll have covered all the costs of putting the roads and all that in.
Right.
And obviously make a profit, and they want to make some sort of profit. So with this tiny house village, like who's the developer? Who's putting it in, and then if you're not building it to city standards, where we bring our plows in and plow the roads and that sort of thing, they have to be a certain size, right? Our plows can only turn.
That makes sense.
Fire truck, you got fire access and that sort of thing. So if you're going the public road format, there's a certain standard and it has to be met. But who's going to be the one that's going to develop this tiny house subdivision? The other option is you go to the vacant land condominium style development, where you have this piece of land and you have private roads and private services beyond the property line, and then everybody pays like a condo fee towards that condo
community or whatever.
The thing there is, and I've asked this to some of the tiny house people, is if you're trying to create affordable housing, why would you create something that had additional fees for people to pay above and beyond property taxes? Now you've created a condo fee they have to pay.
Right.
But if you go the subdivision route, one of the problems will be, where do you put the subdivision? Because you do get opposition opposition to lots that are the same size as abutting lots, where people oppose it. So if you come and say, I want to put a subdivision in for 200 tiny houses on 500 square foot lots, you're probably going to get some opposition from residents and stuff on that, saying, because essentially then you'd be setting a new standard, right? You'd say, this is, once you allow that subdivision, well, look, anything from a 500 square foot lot and up is game now, because we stuck this subdivision right next to a area that had 30 foot lots or 40 foot wide lots or 50 foot lots.
Right.
So there is some challenges there.
Right.
Like, there's a number of factors. It's not as everybody says it's the solution, right? Tiny house is the solution.
And you're
but I think I go back to my thing. It's a multi-pronged. So it's tiny houses. They might fill some area, but I think when you get into trying to see, the other problem is that you have with people that are homeless or have are underhoused, they need more than just the house. They need skills. They need. There's a whole bunch of issues they have that need to be dealt with, aside from just giving people a house. And like, let's say the government is going to take over they're going to run these tiny house villages, let's say, and they're going to just rent them out like a Niagara Regional Housing or something like that. The costs of maintaining all these little tiny houses, I don't know what the pro forma is between that and an actual like mixed use apartment building, or kind of a building that has a mixed income building where you kind of have some subsidized units, some market rate, and some condo units, and have like a mix instead of having all, kind of a ghetto type of thing.
Right.
There's a bunch of issues with it. I mean, I'm interested in it. It's just who's, and could
it's
you
not
and
as easy as
it's
what
no,
people think.
and then are you getting the maximum amount of units that you could get out of it on a tiny house format versus something else like an apartment building? There's issues regarding the longevity of these tiny houses, because you're basically stuck to this 200 square foot thing. That takes a beating, right? Because that's where you sleep there, you eat there, you do everything you do is in this.
How long will it last?
How long will it last? And I mean, it's definitely worth investigating further. Yeah. It's just who's gonna I guess you talk to a guy who does a company who does subdivisions and find out, what would it cost to put one of these in, and what would you have to sell the lots for to cover the cost of the actual development. What
about the idea like trailer parks where they don't sell the land and it's leased land?
Yeah, so you're still into the situation of you got to put these roads in of a certain size. The fire truck's got to be able to get in there. Waste disposal, how's that being done? Yeah. Is it private or public? Because the public collection has a certain standards, like Mterra, they won't.
There's a lot of challenges.
They can barely collect garbage as is, so they're going to have a hard time collecting in a little tiny house village if it's not. They can't maneuver around properly, and so. But what you're talking about still, somebody has to be either leasing it, but who's maintaining the infrastructure? Who's paying for that?
Right.
Like, is it?
I don't know.
Yeah, those are the questions.
This is a great combo because I haven't thought deep into it. I've seen it, and like myself, when I've seen the Facebook things too. I've seen 20 grand, and I'm like, okay.
The ones on wheels, definitely we don't allow. So I can say that you couldn't put it on wheels. It would have to be on a foundation to but the wheels one's not going to work. I mean, there's some group that thinks that they could just kind of set up at the fringe of town, lease land off of a farmer, and just set these up. Like on a farmer's edge of a farmer's field, and pay them $500 a year or something, and they can just set up there, and they'll I don't know what they'll do for septic or that kind of thing, but that's not really. I don't think that's sustainable either, because if you're talking about people that can't afford a house, how are they going to get anywhere? Like I'm confused how they're going to get. You set them out. How are they going to get to go to do groceries, or they have to take a cab every time they want to go do something? There's not even transit out in the country really. So like you have to kind of look at realistic too. Like if you're looking at housing people that are underhoused or can't find housing, they need to be near like services and that can support them.
Amenities as possible.
And so you can't really set up in the fringe. That doesn't make any sense from the point of view. They don't have a car. They need transit. They have a lot of issues that may require going to the hospital or different medical needs, and that can't be really provided out in the country. And then also you run into the issue about fire. Again, if a fire broke out in one of these tiny house villages. It would be they'd burn down before the fire department even got there, and it sort of defies. And also, you'd have problems again with agriculture, and I think you'd see farmers would push against it,
right?
Because they'd say
so. It's not an easy solution. Tiny homes.
Well, I think like I said, we allow it in certain cases. And it's just the tiny house village thing. The village. Is it a subdivision? Is it a condominium type of development? Like you see over on Prince Charles Drive, there was those townhouse development beside the medical center. That's a condominium,
right? And
they pay a fee every month to maintain those private roads, and that would be the kind of format you'd have to look at, I guess. But my question would be, who's paying for that? Is it the government or is it?
Yeah,
the residents? pay it, and is that really sustainable? Like, why would, if somebody can't afford a house, then why would you want to add more fees to their and then they got a roof to maintain. They didn't have so if they were in an apartment building, there's only one roof to maintain. Now you got, let's say you had 50 units, you got 50 roofs to maintain now. If a housing agency were to run it, let's say, they now have 50 exterior buildings with all the exteriors to maintain rather than one. There'd have to be an analysis done of cost versus benefit, but I think the good thing is that we allow it in certain cases now, so it's a good kind of trial run and see how that works. See what it's like when people add it to the back of their house, and see how, or build one on a vacant lot. We'll see how that goes, and then maybe from there, like the group I spoke to, I told them your best bet is to go with a project that you can do now, which is add one to an existing property as a second unit.
So do that.
Do that first. Get it in place. Use it as a showcase to say, here's one that went in. Get that area going first and see what that.
Do some of those.
Get some public buy-in for the concept, because I think if you just kind of throw this tiny house village against some existing development, you're going to run into problems.
Right. I think the first one from all the stuff you're saying here is because I love it. I love the conversation of this because it's things I've never thought about. But yeah, okay, so you want to have a village, so you're going to have all these small lots. And like you're saying, people that are staying there need the amenities. Yeah. So it's better to have it closer to amenities. But now you run into the challenge of having these small lots opposed to not fitting the neighborhoods of what's already there. Yeah, right. So from real estate perspective, if I own a property, I'd love for my neighbor to build a huge house because it's going to be worth more than mine. It's going to help increase the value of mine. Now, if somebody wants to come next door and build a tiny home, this isn't exactly helping the value of my house, right?
I wouldn't look at it that way because, we don't really know how MPAC, like Municipal Property Assessment Corporation, we don't really know how their black box works in terms of how it decides this is worth this and this is worth that, right? They definitely would be looking at square footage,
right? But it's always if you can.
It'd be tough to happen because you'd end up with somebody who had the money to do it. You know what I mean? Like whoever builds one now, theoretically, you would have the money to buy it because you got to buy a lot. I mean, probably you're looking at minimum 100,000 in Welland for a service lot. So in some areas are 250. So right there you're buying. There's that. You got to get that, and then you got your tiny house. I don't think so. I mean, we actually find that like there's some properties where people bought up a single detached dwelling and then tore it down, built a semi-detached dwelling, and they're worth more than the single detached dwelling next door. Right. But I don't think the tiny house thing would be that would be the case. But I don't think necessarily would be a decrease. I mean, we don't really look at that in planning because that's an argument people often come up with, right? They'll say, "Oh, my property value is going to go down," and it's not really the case.
Here's an easy thing. We gotta get you some.
No more of that. Yeah. Well, what time is
it? We're doing just fine. We'll just put this here for when you're ready. This one's a light liqueur.
But we're doing fine for your time.
Wait, you're on a...
No, yeah, I gotta get... Yeah.
How much more time you got?
15, 20 minutes.
Okay, sounds good. So, when this is a common thing in real estate, it's better to be the worst house on your block. Be the worst house out amongst all nice houses than being the best one out of all.
Right.
Right? So that's kind of what I'm alluding to here. If you've got a house and then little houses go next door. But then, like you were saying, now, if you're having any type of conflicts within closer to amenities, and like you said, you go to agricultural area where, or maybe not even, let me not even say agricultural, land not being used somewhere. Brownfield or not. There's land around Wainfleet that's might be zoned agricultural but not being used for agricultural. This exists. But like you said, you put these tiny homes there and then you've got people stuck. They got to go to the hospital. How did they get there? So these are things I've never thought of with the tiny homes. Because I've seen them on Facebook. They pop up for me too. I get real estate pop-ups like crazy. And I'm like, okay, $20,000 to have it, but now what do you do with it? Where do you put this thing?
No, exactly.
How do you service
and then
this?
Yeah, and then the other thing will be, will the bank? I don't know if the banks will mortgage that. Like, I don't know.
That's not easy
Because you got to buy the lot. If you're doing it yourself, you got to go buy the lot, and then you got to be able to have the money to buy that, and then you get some sort of, you got to have some money else buy the house, house, right? Because you're not going to get your So there's definitely some challenges there on it's just the price of land. And then that's why you're driven, like, because of the price of land, you're driven not to a tiny house farm, you're driven to a sort of apartment building style,
right?
Because once you do the return on investment or the it depends what it is, right? If it's the government, you still got to make it sustainable. Like, it still has to. It's a hard one to say. I mean, it's worth exploring more, but it's who's going to be is a developer willing to do it? And what's the price point going to be? That's what's really going to be key. What's the price point on it?
Well, here's something how I kind of see it from our talks here. Are you ready for this?
No, I'm good.
You got to try just a little splash. I won't go crazy.
Only because it's Portuguese.
Well, I'll let you decide how much it's like, I know. See, it's sugary. It's sugary. That comes from somewhere in the Azores where my mom's from. I'll take a little splash.
Oh yeah, sure.
But with the tiny home, here, cheers to this one. Try this one. See what you think of this. This is a nice little passion fruit.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
Right? Something a little different. A little sweet.
Mm-hmm.
With the tiny homes, the way I see it, like, okay, they're trying to sell them for $20,000 or whatever. Even if a developer is able to scale it and get that down a little bit, there's still going to be all these costs. Like, what's an affordable house? You get it to somebody, it's, I don't know, $100,000? Are we talking $50,000? And I don't know.
It's based on income, right? So it's...
and definitely, like you said, financing is going to be tricky one way or the other. You would have to get some type of lender that is familiar with this or likes these type of things, because it's all new kind of stuff.
And I guess if you had a non-profit housing provider and they were renting them, it'd be different. But I think they would find out that they'd have to figure out what their costs would be, right? They're all gonna look at, okay, if we do 50 units this way versus 50 units this way, what's the bottom line, right?
Exactly.
And land's not cheap, so you're kind of...
Land's not cheap.
No, and then people are always like, whoa, derelict land. We'll use derelict land. Well, really,
what is that?
Derelict land, in my view, is something you can't build on. So, like if you get, and then you get into environmental protected areas that we have. City Welland owns environmental protected areas, but you can't develop on those areas. So actually, that's derelict for the purpose of building. It has some purpose in terms of it being an environmental area, but in terms of being for housing, no. But a lot of these groups think that's what they can use, and it's like, no, those you can't. Nobody can build on that because it's a provincially significant wetland, or it's there's endangered species or that kind of thing.
Right.
The land that is available is worth market value, and
I want to pivot to one thing now, actually, because if we're on a tighter clock, just thought of one thing here. I've seen people talk about this, and maybe you can help me. Over by the Seaway Mall. Yeah. That land where they're building the mountain of dirt.
Yes, okay.
So what was that property before?
So it was a landfill that was run by Atlas Steels. It was their landfill where they dumped their slag from their engine or from their furnaces. It was part of the leftovers from melting steel or...
Okay.
And so... that was all dumped. That's all was dumped there was Atlas. It was a legitimate landfill then. It was
right.
And then when Atlas went bankrupt, then certain lands became in the city's possession, and then there was basically the idea of using the landfill for soil, and then they put in actually additional technology to control leaching of it. So before they continued on, they got approvals to put in this Waterloo barrier system that was installed. It was done in partnership with Walker's Industries.
Really? Because this is what I've heard people say. Just from... people say, how could this be here right next to a water? Like, what's the water course there?
Yeah, it's the Welland River.
It's the Welland River.
Yeah.
People say, how could this be a spot where contaminated stuff is going when it's so close to the water?
Yeah, I mean, because it was along the canal.
Right.
And Natla Steels was there, and it was permitted then. Back when they got approval to put that landfill there, it was permitted. You can't. What are you going to do with it? You can't dig it up, and where are you going to put it?
Yeah.
So
what's everything getting put there?
So that's
because that pile.
Yeah. So it's not toxic. Yeah. It's I don't know the height, but
it's like 100 feet, 200.
Yeah, and it's going to become a passive park with like it's going to be capped. It's being capped as it's filled. They cap it with soil.
So what is all that soil?
It's just like. It's not toxic soil, but it's soil that's above the residential standards. So you couldn't in many cases with brownfield sites you do what's called the dig and dump, and you move soil.
Right.
And so
that's coming.
Yeah. So that site is used across the region for.
So that's not just Welland.
Yeah. No. Exactly. It's. Yeah, wherever, like Welland had a certain
so who owns it?
It's owned by the city of Welland, but Walker's Industries runs it, and so we had a certain capacity that we could use where we offered, as part of our brownfield program, we offered discounted tipping fees to help these brownfields move forward. But we've exhausted that, and it's almost done. The landfill, like there's less than a year left. It'll be capped, and then it'll be then the park program will start.
So. This was a way for Welland to make money by people dropping off dirt here.
Yeah, the Welland, you would get a tipping fee basically from every load that comes in,
and cheaper than
then the region gets gets to clean up. Let me say the region gets to clean up these brownfield sites,
right?
That otherwise wouldn't be economical to clean up.
So Welland was able to make some money,
while
charging less of a fee for people to drop dirt here than somewhere else.
And then we were able to clean up a number of properties in the city by utilizing our cheaper rate on tipping that we were able to offer to different developers and companies to help clean up these properties overall. Yeah. I mean, I know that there's controversy about soil landfilling and that, but ultimately you got to put it somewhere.
It does have to go
so every community has got brownfields.
Yeah.
And the stuff isn't just going to disappear in thin air. I mean, there is ways of cleaning up properties, but sometimes you can't clean up the soil necessarily, and so you put it into a kind of landfill situation, and then you have like groundwater monitoring and that kind of thing. So they have all that there, and that and there's these well, nothing's perfect. I mean, but you already had a landfill there before,
right?
And that's not the stuff.
Yeah.
So that's not going there. And then there's an end use where it's a park, and it almost becomes something you can see from a distance. I don't know if you ever went to Canada's Wonderland, but you see that's the thing. We see the mountain.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we used to say in the car was whoever seen the mountain first.
Exactly.
It was the winner. I don't know the winner of what, but
I love it.
The winner of this car ride. But it becomes like the highest point. There's gonna be like a viewing deck.
So what's there's gonna be a park?
Yeah, some like bike paths going up. It'll tie in with the park. Because
it's huge.
Yeah, it'll tie in with the trail along the water there.
Right.
That goes along Merritt Island, and there'll be there'll be bike trails walking paths going up the hill, and then at the top it'll be flat, and there'll be some different things up there, amenities, park benches, some pavilions, maybe. Nothing major in terms of buildings because you're. Yeah. Because we run into problems with settling and stuff, but more sort of like a little parkette.
Yeah, interesting.
And you'll be able to kind of like a viewing deck, and you'll be able to view out over they're calling it Vista Park. So Vista, like because you can see across. You'll be able to see across the region. You'll be able to see Niagara Falls and all that.
Can people go up there now, or is it not allowed up there?
Yeah, you can't get on there because it's walkers. Yeah,
gotcha.
So
I'd like to see what the view is like up there.
Yeah, you'd have to go there. You'd have to call walkers and ask them if they'll give you a tour. Yeah. Maybe they'll let you do a show up there.
That'd be awesome. That's hilarious. What about?
I mean, it has, and the other thing is, it has MOE approvals and stuff. Like it has all the certificates approvals. Like it's not a. It's monitored, it's approved, it's Then
MOE is Ministry
of Environment.
Yeah. And then what about, do you guys own the land on East Main across from the old City Hall?
Yes.
What's going on?
Yeah, so
there?
then that's proposed to be the new central fire hall, the main fire hall for
Really?
the city of Welland.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah.
It's proposed, so is it in the process
Yeah,
now?
so it's in the process of, they've got, I think they're working on the plans now, developing the plans. Like, they have a project manager, and they're getting the plans together to,
that's going to
build
be
a building. Yeah, I can't remember what the budget is on that, but yeah, it's a significant cost, but it will be great for the city in the short, once it's built, short term, medium term, long term, because they're going to design it to kind of have capacity for the future, like,
that's awesome.
And it's going to give them like a great
there.
Facility, like, to have all their training.
We're talking big bucks.
Yeah, it's I think it's 6 or 7 million or something like that.
Oh,
so it's not,
well, I think
it may be bigger at this point. I don't know. They haven't.
We won't quote these prices.
Once the plans come out and they get tenders on the actual construction cost, then we'll know what the actual cost is. But
that's cool.
But
how big's that property there?
Oh, it's huge. I can't think of it offhand, but it's
like 5 acres.
Yeah, it's something like that. It might even be more.
Yeah.
It goes right back it goes back pretty far. It's kind of pie shaped, but the building's going to be closer to the road, and
nice.
And they're going to try to tie it into that with this new courthouse, and then the old city hall site. Try to make it a nice looking building to fit in.
Nice
to the area, but it'll definitely be a nice gateway into the city. There'll be this nice fire hall, and then there'll be training rooms and there'll be more parking there as well. So they'll be able to provide. Yeah, and
how many fire halls in Welland now?
Yeah, there's 1, 2. I think there's 4 actually. It depends which you count as a fire hall. There's like a small one they keep this old. Like there's this. Okay, there's one in King. Well, they used the one. They got King Street, then they got the one on. East Main Street in the fire in the hydro building. They use part of that, and then they've got one on Rose Street, which is off of Thorold.
Yeah.
They got another one that's on Prince Charles Drive, and then they got one out on East Main Street, like out in the country on the north side as you're heading towards Niagara Falls, like Montrose. There's a fire hall there, and there's a small one. There's another one I can't think of. It's a smaller one. They keep it. It's abutting a park, but it's not really like an active one. Like people aren't there. So, but they're going to be building one new one and then 2 smaller ones eventually. So there'll be a new one built on King Street.
Nice.
Smaller. Like it won't be the main one anymore. I shouldn't say it would be a smaller facility, but it'll be built behind. That's what they're proposing, the existing one, and then once that one's built, the old one will be demolished. And then they got this,
So, what are some of the most exciting developments happening in Welland?
Exciting developments?
Well, to me, like any of this stuff is exciting. 'Cause, when I say exciting, GE, when that happened, that was like... that was huge. Now,
like right now, we have there's Hunter's Point. I mean, it's exciting. There's Hunter's Point.
To me, it's all exciting.
Yeah, well, you're a real estate agent. It's good.
Hunter's Point, that's the old golf course.
Yeah, the old golf course.
So
there's a project there. There's proposal for a subdivision going in there, 1,000 units.
Oh, nice.
There's not really. There's other ones. There's other ones that are just kind of draft approved. The 5-story one I was talking about that's going on back to the wellness complex. That's a big
awesome.
one. That's a big one.
I like that. I like to hear that. That's because I've been to that facility a couple times, and it's beautiful.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But the times I was there wasn't a lot of people there, and I'm like, this could use more people using it. And I might have been there off peak times, but that building going there, it's definitely going to get utilized.
That one's big. The 50-unit affordable housing project we're talking about on King Street, that's a big one.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Like basically the new zoning bylaw, I think, is a big success. Putting that in place, because that and then we have those property pages. My success is different than the projects. I'm more of the process, like the property pages where you can look up your property.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean. You can look up your type your address in for Welland, and then it comes up with that page. You can see what your zoning is.
So let me talk about that for a sec, because I find that super useful. So myself, when I'm listing a property, if I'm listing one in Welland, if I Google the address, I don't even know.
60 East Main Street at City Hall. You can Google that and it would tell you.
And then, you Google it, you find the Welland link, and it shows you the zoning, which is amazing, because finding zoning for me in other municipalities...
Oh, it's impossible. I even have a hard time doing it, and I work in planning.
Really?
So, people call me, friends call me all the time and say, well, can you find out the zoning in this place? And I go and look, and I'm like, oh, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I knew that. I known that, and then this was developed before, it was developed before I was there, and the IT department had it, and then they showed me it, and I said, no, we need that out there. We need this.
It's so good. Because right now, when I list a property, I still do it in Welland to double check, but not that I have to, and I get it for other reasons. But I go to MPAC and I buy a report so I can get zoning and square footage.
Yeah.
And with Welland, if I know that you don't have the square footage out there, but just finding the zoning that quickly is amazing.
The lot size is on there. Yeah.
Lot size, yeah.
Yeah, not the square footage of the building, no.
So... it's I don't know, it's something so simple but so amazing.
You wouldn't think that's, but it is. It's easy to talk to people on the phone too. Like if somebody calls in and says to me, and it could be anyone, real estate agent, citizen, counselor.
Yeah.
They call me up and I can tell them, well, you type Google the address, so we're looking at the same thing, and there's a map there and a Google Street View, and then we can kind of look at it together. And
it's unbelievable.
And then we're looking at the same thing and talking about the same thing and the same map, and it's really
on
nice.
The same page.
Yeah, no, it's great. And then less people calling too, which is good, because if you can get the information yourself, that's huge.
Then
because,
I don't have to bug.
Yeah, you don't have to call us, and then we call you back, and
it's amazing.
Yeah, no, for
so,
sure.
I don't know. I haven't seen any other city or municipality have this.
I think there's something. Niagara Falls might have something similar. I'm not sure.
I would love,
but it's very rare what they have
Is
done.
It expensive to do it?
I don't think so. No, you've got to get the buy-in from the GIS people.
Sure.
Not a huge amount. I don't believe so. Like it's already sort of done within existing. Systems we have. Like I don't think it was a huge. I don't think there was a huge cost to implement it because it was done internally. So like we have a GIS. We have the IT department, and there's GIS specialists, and then I've got GIS technicians that work under me. But there's like more of the programming side of GIS. But we have that in house at City of Welland, so we can. But like I think they copied it essentially from other places. Like there's some other municipalities that have it, but it's rare. Looking around, you wouldn't find it.
How could I encourage different cities in Niagara to do that?
You'd basically have to, send a letter in, maybe to the planning director or something, saying, can't you do something like this? I mean, you could talk to politicians, I guess, would be one thing.
Are they going to
go meet with them? I don't know. I don't think so, because I think it's...
In my life, it helps a ton.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's always the push. You're going to get some pushback internally from the city hall itself. The staff might not. There's some people that they don't want this information to be out there. It seems like, because they're worried that people are going to interpret it themselves. But that's their own. They could misinterpret it anyways.
Right.
Because this information still would have been on our website. They just would have had to hire kind of. Right. They would have had to do a lot more manual labor. But my view is, the more information you get people up front, the better.
A million percent.
If they want to misinterpret it, we make sure, like the way it's set up now, if you were the zoning is, if you click on the zoning, it brings you to the beginning of the document, so you're forced to read from the beginning because so we'll do 60 East Main Street, which is City Hall.
60
East Main Street, Welland.
Yeah. So then it's right here.
Yeah, it should be one of the top hits. Like as a
this
Google,
is it.
Google, yeah, and there it is. There's you got the map there, and you can go into a separate page if you want and look at the map more detail. I think you can zoom out there, but if you and then you got your Google Street View.
Yeah.
And then you got who your counselor is. Look, you got.
Wow! It even shows the counselors.
Lucas Spinoza, John Kiokio.
Is that?
And that's their phone number. Yeah. So
that's his cell number.
It's his. That's the number he's given. That's the number that he's given the city to post as his contact information for the public or anyone who wants to call him, really. So, and then you can go to check your garbage day.
Garbage collection.
That essentially takes you to the region's website, and then you just type your address in here. It doesn't actually populate it there.
Yeah.
But you could get to that level. But we don't, because the region runs that. We'd have to figure out a way to tie in the two systems. But
area.
The lot, the planning district, the official plan. You get the links. You get a legal description, parcel ID, roll number.
Yeah, you got all
basic information that you could get. I mean, you could go expand on it, but I mean that's pretty well the basics that people are.
What's
that's
DMC?
Downtown Mixed Use Center, I believe. Or,
Center. Wow. Yeah. See, like that.
That's huge. I mean, that's
there's got to
for planning. That's why I say our biggest success for planning. That's probably one of our big. Besides the new zoning, this one here, because this allows people to do a lot of stuff on their own.
Yes.
Their own research, and a lot of builders, they will, as soon as they find out about anybody, real estate agents, as soon as they find out about this, you don't hear from them anymore in most cases until they find what they're looking for, right? Because they used to call and say, well, I'm looking at this property for this zoning, but now they don't have to give up their cards that they're like, you know, that they, which is better for them because then they can go out and do the research themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when they're ready, they can come approach us if they want to get more.
So when did this get implemented?
I believe this was around just pre the zoning bylaw, so sometime in 2017, I believe, or late 2016.
Yeah.
We actually, the reason I don't know the date is because it was kind of a soft release. The GIS guy wanted to do a sort of soft release. He didn't want to make a big thing about it, and we sort of just, and you know, he said exactly. He basically said what'll happen is Google will actually track this. As people keep using it, that's why it appears at the top of your search results, because Google's looking at that and saying that's a nice piece of information.
It's great information.
You know, so they move that to the top because they, you know, but anybody could adopt this. It would just take some programming, and they could adopt a very similar thing.
I'll tell you one thing. I don't know if it'd be easy to put on here or not, but one thing that I always find a little bit challenging, maybe because of my inexperience, but I get asked about school zones and like busing. You did ask me that one, and I did ask the IT department. They said they were going to look into it, but they hadn't gotten back to me yet. But they are looking into. Yeah, because that's something.
That would end up probably being one of these things like.
Yeah, I don't know if that's possible or not.
Well, they had to look and see if we had the school zone GIS data,
right?
And then if we have that from the school board, then that would allow that to potentially do that. Yeah, you can go beyond this for sure. Yeah, that's one piece. I did bring, as soon as you told me about that, I said that you were interested in
that's cool.
School zones, and could that possibly be put on here, and they said they would look into it to see if there was the proper data. But we could also put in a link similar to this saying school zone, and it brings you to somewhere else. Yeah, it brings you to the school board's website, but there's different ones too, right? So we'd have
that's a little bit.
They're looking into it. Yeah, anything's possible. Like with the GIS, anything's possible. It just, you know, it's what does it take to program it to be able to make it do that and extract that information, and then is your source information always up to date? It's one thing you got to keep in mind. So the more links that you don't have control of here, is that the most up to date piece of mapping? Yeah, have 100%. They changed? You got it. There is some management that goes into it. This stuff we have basically control over.
Yeah.
And then this one, the garbage collection, is more of a link, but still the concept's there.
No, it's awesome.
And
this is amazing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's good to hear that.
Very progressive.
It was Jamie Leach in our GIS department, and he showed it to me, and I said, "No, we got to get this out." And I really pushed when I got here in Welland to push to get this.
Yeah.
Live.
That's a great
get
thing.
It live. Let's get this live. If we've got this, let's put this out there because it's good information. It makes us. I use that for if you were to call me on the phone, I'm using this.
Yeah.
Most cases.
Yeah.
I have another system I can look at that has a little bit more detailed information, but in most cases, if you call me and say, Grant, I need the zoning on this, I'm going onto this to get that information. So yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So then we're looking at the same thing essentially, and then.
What about Niagara Navigator?
Yeah, so Niagara Navigator is good if you're looking for like the ease of use. It's a little bit more fluid, the mapping, but it doesn't have really any layers. Like you can't really get much. You can get parcel fabric. It's good for. I would use that for other places that I would use our own mapping for Welland. But if I was Niagara Navigator is good. It doesn't have any layers though. Like it has property lines, but you don't have zoning. You don't even have the region's official plan designation. So it does provide some use, like for looking at a property. The property, approximate property lines, and maybe doing some measurements off it. It works smooth, but doesn't have any information that's useful beyond that.
Right.
Like if you wanted to find out what's your regional official plan designation, maybe it's on here now. You never know. Land planning.
I don't know.
But it's good for the region wide. But if you're looking at Welland, I would use the Welland property pages and then use our mapping from there. Our mapping may be a little bit slower, but we have all the different layers that you can look at. Yeah. They've got more in here, but I don't know what's in planning. That would be the interesting part. Yeah, so they don't even have regional official plan,
right?
Local and when I worked in Wainfleet, we tried to get this Niagara Navigator to at least provide some information for people in Wainfleet, like zoning. Why can't we? Because we said to them, well, when we were in Wainfleet was paying towards this.
Right.
Paying a certain amount of money every year towards having access to this. And we said, well, that's fine, but can we have data on here in addition to what you've got to help us?
Yeah.
No, they wouldn't. They did not want to provide area-specific data, even though we were going to provide it to them and we were paying, Wainfleet was paying for the service. Because now it wouldn't get you the property pages we were talking about, but it would have allowed you then to, you'd have a thing here, it would have like Wainfleet zoning.
Right.
And then when you scroll, and then it would tell you what the zoning is on the property.
Yeah, because finding zoning in Wainfleet,
you got to go into the maps. You got to go into the book and then look in the maps.
The maps are not easy to navigate.
And it's partially because of resources, right? They don't have the resources to have a dedicated GIS person. But what they have the mapping in GIS format. It's just they need to get either Niagara Navigator, the region, to allow that piece of data to...
Is that who runs...
Yeah, it's the region of Niagara, right there. You can see.
Sure.
Yeah, so they could get all the zoning from the different municipalities because we keep our zoning as a piece of open data that you can also download in different formats.
And I think I've seen before, I don't know if your office, somebody else's office, do you have different access to Niagara Navigator than when I go on? Like, do you see the same thing?
Well, yes, on the...
I felt like somebody had more info.
There is a Niagara Navigator where you have to put a username and password. That would be they would have, but it wouldn't have much more.
One of the things that I think that I wasn't able to find through here is the hamlets in Wainfleet.
Yeah, you won't. Yeah, that wouldn't be a thing you could find. You would have that. You'd have to go look in there.
Yeah, because that's because I've had people ask me before, can I develop in here?
Well, they'd have to have in here official plan.
Right.
Yeah, they don't. Official plan designate, they don't even have regional official plans. So, but this could be expanded in terms of why they haven't expanded beyond that. I don't know. Because we already have the information internal in Welland for our own system that people can access.
Right.
We haven't done much in terms of pushing on them to say, because our data is available for anyone to download. Most municipalities, they could download our zoning information and have the most up-to-date zoning information and put it on here.
Right.
Maybe it could be a thing about keeping track of it all because there's 12 municipalities, but I think it could be done. Like each municipality could say, here's our most updated mapping, please. But like I said, when I was in Wainfleet, they did not want to put the mapping on for a specific area. And I said, but isn't that the purpose of this? Like, this seems like, okay, you start out with a nice Niagara Navigator and it's got nice mapping and it moves around nice. You can scroll in and out and you can look around at properties. You see addresses. So it's great. Right. But they need to bring it to the next level.
Yeah.
But I haven't been too focused on it because this, what we've got is now our mapping will improve. Like, this won't change, but when you click over here, eventually will change. When you go to interactive mapping, it'll change. It'll feel more like Niagara Navigator.
Yeah,
More of a Google Earth type of. It'll be a little bit different, a little bit more smoother than what we have. What we have is really good, and it's this.
Wow.
Well, that's Google Maps.
Yeah.
But that's
Nice. So, you've worked in planning in Toronto.
Yeah, I worked for
Wainfleet.
Yeah, Port Colborne.
And Port Colborne?
Yeah, I worked for Port Colborne. I worked for City of Oshawa. I worked for City of Toronto, and then I worked for Wainfleet, and then I worked for Welland. And
I only knew.
I started in Port Colborne actually. It's my first job when I graduated. When I was out of school, my first job was there. And
so you see, it's different amongst all the.
Oh yeah, they're all different. Like Oshawa is similar to St. Catharines, very similar in terms of size. It's both like where GM was like a big
GM influence.
Big GM influence. I don't know, almost directly across from each other. Almost like it's almost like from the. And then Toronto is like totally different because it's a mega city, and but it's great. Toronto's great. I mean, it's just so busy there.
So working for all the different places, similarities and differences amongst all of them, yeah?
There's some people are great to deal with, like, in all the places, you get to deal with all kinds of different people. They're all, most people are pretty good.
Yeah.
You run into the opposition and stuff, but at the end of the day, most people are pretty good about it, even if they were opposed to something and the result wasn't in their favor. They don't hate you. You know what I mean? But there's some people that might hate me. I don't know. That's quite possibility, probably.
It's gonna happen.
But generally, the people, it's the same. It's just different, different issues, different scale.
Yeah.
Everybody's wants to live a good life, and they're just trying to figure out how to, like everybody's.
How to get there.
Yeah, everyone's good. And then, like, the scale's different. Like, it's hard to compare things from Toronto and say Toronto did it this way, that's the way we should do it.
Right.
Because they're a huge mega city, and they got subway system, and they got 17 universities and colleges, and it's a totally different, there's 12 hospitals, and it's a totally different world. But there are some things to adopt that you could use as examples, but it's different scale.
See, that's awesome that you have all those experiences in Toronto. Because I don't know, I think that's great. I think you're great. Like, I bug you from time to time when I've got something going on, because you're really knowledgeable in the whole area. And I didn't even realize. I just thought there was Toronto, Wainfleet in there.
No,
you got Port and Oshawa too.
Yeah, I started out in Port, and then moved on from there, and then came back to this area. Yeah, where I was from.
Yeah,
and it was all a strike in Toronto that caused it.
Yeah,
City Hall. We were on strike at City of Toronto, and the job I had was a union job, so I was on strike, and I was doing strike duty, and it was like a 5-week long process, and I was in the middle of renovating a house, and and then it was a long commute back and forth, because I was commuting for a year back and forth from Toronto, to Port, and then I just ended up, a job came open in Wainfleet, and I'm like, well, I'll take a bit of a pay cut. Yeah. But, you gain back 4 hours a day of time. Yeah. Right? That I could do something.
Right.
And so then I took the job, and I got the job, going for the interview, ended up getting the job, and then went from there, and then I got a promotion, and then another job came open in Welland, and opportunity arose, and
you plan on staying in Welland for a while?
I don't know. Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
I assume that, we don't know. It's hard to know, right? So, I mean, it is a bit nervous, right? Because you don't know what's the future hold. Is it this? Is it that? Everybody's got their own idea of what it is and what it is going to be. It's hard to say, but I always kind of look and say, well, hopefully I've done enough good things that maybe I'll, be part of the new iteration, if they come out with something, that'll be part of it in some way.
I don't know if my 2 cents matters at all, but whatever happens moving forward, any organization's lucky to have you there. So
well, thanks.
Well, you're
I'll find another job if I have to, but who wants to pick up and go somewhere else? Because you don't know
see, so because you're on that end of it, because amalgamation is a thing that's being talked about, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's coming out sometime in October. They'll be announcing kind of what they're planning on doing, I think, in October. Possibly some indication maybe in the summer, but I don't know. It seems like the government is sort of, now they've gone and break the provincial government for the summer. So
what are some of the possible outcomes?
Yeah, I mean, you basically could look at, stay the same as we are.
Right.
I don't know if that's what's going to happen.
Some
sort of mini amalgamation, maybe, where you have some municipalities join together, or forced to join together, basically, into one. Or you could do you could do Port, Wainfleet, Welland, and Pelham. Really, right. You could probably do in part of Thorold, because they all you got to remember, when from Welland, the water and sewer for Pelham comes from Welland, and the South Thorold, south of Merritt, that's serviced by the water and sewer treatment plant in Welland. So you could do that, and then still have a regional entity. You could have a smaller number of municipalities, not have a region. Like maybe 3 or 4 big municipalities, but not have a region anymore.
Really?
And you could look at different things, like police could be OPP, for example. Could could take over. The public health looks like that's being taken over by like a Hamilton Niagara thing, so you don't need that regional component anymore. You still have to have like social services, like the social assistance and that. You'd have to sort of, I mean, you could go to the one big municipality where you just get rid of all 12 in the region and come up with one new entity.
That's pretty dramatic.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Hamilton has, and that's what Toronto has, and that's what Ottawa has.
So do you have any guesses?
No, I don't. It's hard to tell. I mean,
right.
It's hard to tell because some of the things that the government said they were going to do, they backed off on for one reason or the other. So it's hard to say. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's going to take some time. I mean, the only thing is, like, for right now, the best thing places could do is put their best plan forward. Like, so each municipality should be looking to put their best plan forward now so that it carries forward in this amalgamated city. Make sure you put your best plan forward, your best official plan, your best zoning, because it's going to survive for 10, 15, 20 years of this, whatever amalgamation happens. So places should be looking to come up with their best
they should
plans.
Be in fifth gear right now.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, and I'm not saying spend all the money and do that, but really come up with your best plan and your best policies as to the way you want your community to be, because those are going to sort of survive for a certain period of time. And
right.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty interesting to see what comes.
Yeah,
is it going to happen something, or there's a chance nothing?
It's hard to say. I mean, it could be they decide they're not going to change them. I think there'll be some change, but I have no knowledge, insider knowledge whatsoever.
Yeah,
you know about as much as I do. I know there's a group going around saying they're promoting the One Niagara, and that's going to be better. And yeah, it possibly could. It'd be interesting to see what standard are we going to if we're amalgamating, let's say, everything into one. What's the service standard we're adhering to? Like, I mean, in terms of how we deal with planning or these property pages or things like that. Are we going to the slowest place, the fastest place, the cheapest, the most, what style, what do we adopt here? Yeah. So like, I think, it's good to say, if we go to one, it'll be better, but it depends which way you're going to do it. Because not every place is the same.
There's likely going to be growing pains if
absolutely
any changes.
Absolutely, it'll take like City of Toronto, people were given packages, and then like a week later, after they got their packages, were called back. Like when they amalgamated there, called back and said, "Oh, by the way, we need you now as a consultant." So now they're making more money working as a consultant than they were when they worked for the whatever municipality they worked for in Toronto. So then. Or they get a job again back at the same place they got a buyout from. Let's say they got a 2 or 3 year payout. Then a week later, a month later, they're calling them back saying, we don't know how this works in this particular area. Can you were working on that, weren't you? Yeah, we need you back. So, and then some people chose to be consultants, and then there was a big kerfuffle there when I first started about that. Consultants were making like a huge amount of money, and they're like, why are we paying these? Why did we get rid of these people in the first place? So, like, there'll still be the same need for, like, there'll be efficiencies that can be gained, I suppose, of any sort of, but you're still going to need a significant number of people to deliver.
Just to address one thing with that, when you're talking about sharing different services, all that stuff, one of the things that's come up with people in Wainfleet when it comes to property taxes and expenses, is from 100% of the property taxes paid by a resident, 50%-ish goes to the region.
Yes.
Right? And I've heard people talk about 50% of that goes towards policing. And then, so essentially 25% of Wainfleet resident property taxes go towards policing. And then I've heard people say, like, we pay that much per year, and in Wainfleet there isn't.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with rural areas, like, people always think that. They always think, I pay so much in taxes, I don't get anything. I don't get water and sewer. But water and sewer is separate from your taxes, right? It's a separate bill. But the reality is, it's the population density, right? You take a street in Wainfleet, and there's let's say, I don't know, this one here, Deeks. I don't know, on Deeks itself, there's only probably 40 houses, maybe. That might even be high.
Yeah, maybe 20.
Right? And so because of they send ambulances out here, it takes a half hour, 45 minutes to get to something. It ties up resource. It's a big area to service.
Yeah.
There's not the economies of scale for garbage collection. So you're collecting garbage on a road for 40 houses. You're driving it, whereas in the city you're collecting for 500 houses. There's not economies of scale. There's a cost to having the country lifestyle and to have a certain level of service. I know there's not a lot, but you got to remember there's regional roads that cut through the township. They're totally redoing Creek Road. Right. It's in the newspaper, Regional Road 45. That's a disaster, right? That road's... Yeah. But wild. I think when you run it, people out in the country always think they're paying more and they're subsidizing, but in actual fact, the urban areas are subsidizing the rural areas from a tax point of view. Really? If you didn't have the urban areas, the taxes would even be higher because, it's just because, like the amount of resources required to service rural areas is higher on a population basis because the road network's huge and it's just the cost and the cost of delivering those services.
Makes sense. We've talked about that a little bit before, where Wainfleet, when we've talked about residential development in Wainfleet, and how new house gets put in, they collect $5,000 a year in property tax. Yeah, but it's expensive to.
Well, you talk about a road. Take a road that's a kilometer long. What's it cost to build that road? What's it cost to repave it? $1 million, and then how much taxes are collected? You take that $1 million and take your street deeks here and out here, and you have to repave that road. What's the cost of it? I'm not sure the total cost, but you add up the taxes that people pay over time. I bet you it doesn't add up to what it costs.
Yeah, to just pave the road. Yeah,
it would take years and years. It'd take 20, 30, 40, 50 years to recoup, and if even that, because the cost of, and so.
It's tough. Road in rural areas is tough.
Yeah, Wainfleet's got a huge road network it has to maintain. Plow it, maintain it, and then a lot of them are stone roads, so they got to dump stone on it, grade it every year. They try to expand on paving the roads, but it's huge. And then when you want to replace it, people expect paving. So
is that one of our biggest expenses? Is roads in Wainfleet?
I think so. Yeah, I think from what I was there,
so much.
Yeah. You have a huge you have your public works department's great. Like they do a good job with the snow plowing and everything.
Yeah, they do.
For what they've got in terms of resources and the amount of roads they do.
I don't even know how.
I don't know. Yeah, I would imagine that's one of their bigger ticket items. I mean, that's common though for other places too. Roads, fire. Those are big ticket items to keep those big budget items. Generally, your police, roads, EMS, like infrastructure are the big ticket items on that. Right. Transit's becoming more important. So, but
yeah. So, I think we're getting close to your time. Is there anything left that you want to talk?
Yeah, I never had anything. I didn't want to come here having to talk about anything. I actually had some notes I usually carry around with me, which are just like little, like a cheat sheet. But
I want to just say what a great job you're doing with what you're doing.
Thanks.
Because you know that I've leaned on you as a resource in different things before, and I really appreciate that all. Whenever you've helped out. Appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like, I really, really have a lot of respect for what you're doing there and just Welland as a whole, because I don't know everything that's going on in the region, but the things that I see that Welland is doing, I think it's amazing. And I know that you're part of that. Like, it's really great to see, because like I personally had friends that parents have lost jobs through all the loss of jobs in Welland. And now seeing it, like I see it as a rebound, like it's rebounding really well. And I know you're on the front line of doing this, so it's awesome to see. Like I love it.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, like it's got to be pretty cool.
Oh yeah, it's been great. There's so many different great things we get to work on. Yeah, in Welland on a day-to-day basis.
Because when
all the things you want in planning, basically.
Right. Like I can only imagine whoever was working in your department when things were crashing, if we want to call it, how tough that must have been for the people working there.
Yeah, right.
It's like you're losing resources, you're losing jobs.
Yeah, right.
Like it's almost depressing.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Like it is. And now it's rejuvenating.
Yeah.
What's the word? I'm struggling.
Rejuvenating.
Yeah,
it's a renaissance.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, and there's different jokes about Welland, right? Like how it's not the greatest place. We all get our balls busted one way or the other.
Yeah.
But Welland is actually on, like, coming up, and like I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, people say that, but I mean, a lot of people are shopping in Welland because, we have Walmart. So I mean, people can say whatever they want, but people are there from other communities. People from Wainfleet come to Welland to the Canadian Tire. They come to the.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a kind of hub for for Southern Niagara. I mean, there's a lot of stuff there, and
it's great.
Yeah,
love it.
It's central. We go all the time, my family, because that's there's places to shop. Like there's just some places in downtown, but more young kids and stuff. There's more options in Welland, and go down the Seaway Mall, and they got the charging station there, so I can charge my car, and it's great. And there's more stuff coming. There'll be more stuff coming down the road. Canadian Tire is getting bigger, and
where it's not over.
There's more stuff coming, and
it's awesome.
And all that area behind Walmart there's this industrial business park that's almost complete, and then the buildings will start going up soon. So we'll see a lot of changes.
I love it.
Coming.
Love it. Well, thanks.
All right.
Thank you a ton, bro. I really appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, it's my first podcast. So.
Yeah? I love it.